Hello and welcome to Geek It Plays Epic Landscape Tutorials. This is episode number 6 and it's entitled Snow Mountains. In this tutorial we'll be creating a snowy mountain scene. We're going to start this tutorial a little bit differently. We're going to set our camera and we want to move it along the y-axis to about almost 30 meters. There we go. We also want to create main camera view, so let's go into our render options and we'll click render to screen and then set the aspect ratio to user defined. Let's set it to 320 by 440 and you can see how that gives us a more narrow, longer look to our main camera view, and this will frame our massive mountains we're about to create. Let's zoom out so we can work with our space, and let's go ahead and create a normal terrain. And let's size it, and we want a really large mountain. So right click on your terrain and edit object. And this is a normal terrain, so let's go ahead and apply some interesting looks to this mountain. We're going to start this process by clicking on our Add Function button. And let's right click and reset this function so we'll have a new one. And also right click to go to Edit Function. And in Edit Function we're going to add a noise node. And let's make it a little bit smaller. And enable the rigid option. Okay, that will do for us. Okay. And let's leave these settings at the default of 25. Click OK. And you see we have a very interesting terrain. A couple things we should do is decrease this and make it a little bit flatter just by using the altitude mode. And then also go up and increase our resolution to 1024 by 1024. Okay. Also let's click on Zero Edges. That makes it a little bit smoother, and let's clip it maybe a little bit less. Okay. So we see edges here and there won't be any sharp, flat, square edges. Now we're going to do something a little bit different and take our mountain and just rotate it forward, position it, something like that. Let's render that. And now you can see this mountain starting to look kind of strange, sticking up out of the ground the way it is. But we're not trying to create the entire mountain with one terrain. We're going to use several different pieces, and it will look great. So let's open another one and resize it and repeat kind of the same process that we did. Right click and edit object. And one nice thing is we've already reset our function, so we can open and click OK to apply the same function. We'll increase the resolution again and click on Zero Edges and clip it. If you want, you don't have to necessarily do the zero edges. You can manually get rid of the hard edges by using your paint tools. Notice how we're creating different angles on these so that it looks like layers just slowly climbing upward. And let's add one more over here. We're going to make another large terrain. Okay, right click and edit object and use our function. And for this one, let's use our paint tools and just use the altitude and decrease this. Increase our resolution. And we don't really care about doing the edges on this because this is going to be our backdrop. So we're just going to rotate it up straight. And if you want, maybe you can even rotate it a little bit forward like this. Let's reposition this. And let's decrease the size of this one a little bit more. And let's render that and see what we have so far. So now we have some very interesting mountains going here. And these will be our background mountains. Let's click one more time to view that. And you can see how it almost looks like two tectonic plates have collided together. It's created interesting mountains here. Next we're going to create some mountains we'll set in front of these maybe some over here and some on the side. So let's start by creating another terrain and resizing it. And this one will go right about here. Right click and edit object. And let's set our resolution to the same. Click OK. And let's squish this down a little bit and let's rotate it so that gives us a nice smoother transition from the ground up. And it takes a little bit of time to adjust it just right and get it how you want it. And let's add another terrain. Just going to do the same things, resize it and position it. And let's put it over here a little bit and we'll have this nice shape right here. Let's right click and edit object and set the resolution. Of course you can do it a different way. You can just simply right click on your terrain button and click the question mark and set it right here to fractile and set it to 1024 by 1024. So you can do it that way if you want. Let's just delete this one here. And I like to do it like this, so let's go ahead and add another one and we'll resize it. Right click, edit object. That's looking nice, so let's add our function. Okay. And set our resolution. Now, I really don't like this one. It looks a little bit weird, so let's delete that. If you notice when we multiplied it before, it made it look a little bit weird. So let's turn it back to 256 by 256 and click OK. And then we'll start again and recreate our mountain and add our function. Click OK. Let's increase the resolution. And if we increase the resolution before, you notice how it created all these many small ridges, and this is the way we want it, so we're going to do it this way this time. Okay, let's increase the size. Let's do one more thing. Let's go ahead and apply another effect, and we'll go to twist, and we're just going to slightly twist it to then rotate it up and position it like this. As I'm adjusting this, I just want to remind you, you can post your work to our forum at Geek Play's website. Okay, that's good. So now we have our mountains kind of climbing to the left here. Let's preview what we have. You can see how we have some interesting things on the side here. Okay. We'll probably want to add a few more right through here. Or, on second thought, we might just want to leave it how it is. It's actually looking pretty nice. We'll just put some trees through here. Okay. Now it's time to apply materials to our terrain we've just created. So let's select all of the terrain, click on materials, and we're going to choose a material I've created. I took some rocks and I modified them, and we're going to quickly look at the settings. So let's open it. And here is the color map that's been chosen for it. Okay, and bumps, and this is the way we've edited the functions. And this material will be available in our Epic Terrain pack, as well as all of the other supplemental things we've used in the tutorials. And this material was based on another one. Let's go in and click on rocks. Whoops, rocks. And it's based on the mountain snow. So we just modified this right here, and so it's more suitable for our needs. Okay, Let's decrease the scale for this. Click OK, and let's preview that. And we have very interesting looking rocks, but it might be a little bit too noisy, so let's go back and go to our color and edit our colors. And we're going to change our color to a little bit darker brown. Okay? And let's go to this color and change this. We don't want any light colors. We're going to change them all to a dark brown. Okay. So it'll give us a darker material. Let's render it and look at it. And it's less noisy now. Okay. Next, let's apply some snow. Let's add a layer. Then we're going to choose bumpy snow. Open. And you can just apply normal snow to this. We're going to increase the alpha boost to maximum and go to environment. And we want to make this applied only to the flat slopes. And let's decrease the altitude range. Increase the fuzziness. And let's increase these fuzziness settings just a little bit so that there will not be a hard edge right here. It'll be a little fuzzier. And also let's increase the preferred orientation and the tightness. Let's decrease the scale and click OK and render that. And we already have a very interesting snow mountain right here. As you can see, it's applying snow to the slopes and very interesting areas. Okay. Next, select our terrain number 5, and we're going to open it, and we're going to go to rocks and add an ecosystem. Go to the general tab and add plant. And we're going to just select a fir tree and click OK. Increase the density. Enable the variable density. Right click and edit function. We're going to add a noise node and decrease the scale a little. OK. Disable decay. Decrease the overall scaling. Let's go back and click on shrink at low densities and click on variable color and edit the color map. We want to give it a lighter color. Okay. And then darker here in the center. And then we'll go back to a lighter color here. Okay. Right click on variable color and edit function, and let's add a link from our color to our noise node. Click OK and let's populate. And if you get this message right here, it's just telling you that your density is too high and you're going to run out of memory possibly. So let's decrease the density and increase the scaling, and that will help. Populate that again. And that just depends on how much memory you have. Let's render this, and you can see how small that is and how many it was trying to populate. So that's why. Okay. Okay, and let's go and increase the scaling slightly and the density. And let's edit function and let's increase the scale on that too. Okay, populate, and let's preview that now. And let's see how this is looking. And that's looking very interesting. The trees are nice, trying to climb up the hill here. And we're going to leave it for now. Let's go to our side terrain. Go here and add an ecosystem and add a plant. We'll add the same fir tree. We'll just bump up the density a little bit and scale it down just a titch. And populate it. And this will just give us a nice population of trees up on the flatter areas this side here. We could populate over here, but I don't like how much it's populating right through here. So let's go back in and select our terrain there. And let's decrease the density. And let's look at our color. Let's leave those like that. And let's populate. We need it a little bit smaller. So open the environment and see if we're populating correctly. Now let's go into our materials and select our fir tree. And you'll notice that they're very green and it's snow covered out, so we need to give them some snow. We're going to apply a color mask, edit color. We'll go to white and adjust the color blend. And we're just applying some white color to them. Click OK and let's preview this. And you'll notice when this renders that the trees look like they're carrying a snow load. Okay. A couple things we can do is apply more snow here, makes it look like there was an avalanche. But this looks very good, so let's leave it like this for this tutorial. We're going to turn our attention to the foreground and we're going to create some rocks right about in this area. So let's go ahead and click on the rock icon. And let's position this. Bring it closer to the camera and maybe rotate it just a little bit. Something like this. And one thing in View that is nice is you can create rocks and preset them and save them for future use. And let's go ahead and create another rock right here. And just move that. Maybe similar to this right here. And let's create a last rock and position it on the other side. And we're just creating layers of interest here. Let's pull it up a little bit more so it can be seen a little bit more. And we've kind of created a little path between the rocks. Okay. And let's go to our first rock and let's just move it back a little bit. Okay. Now this doesn't look very real and nice, so let's select all the rocks and we're going to click on the materials and let's select snow rock that I've created previously and open it. Let's take a quick look at how we've created this. Right click and edit function. And if you notice, we have this color map down here and it has a snow outline right here. Okay, and we've linked 3 noise nodes to our bitmap, and we set one as cellular patterns and gives us this type of a pattern. And the second one is a simple fractal node and it has normal noise, and the last one is called Verona and it creates this kind of interesting looking effect. And if you're interested in learning more about creating materials, you can go to our other tutorials on the subject and we'll be looking at how to create rocks and other materials. So let's click OK and let's apply that and let's preview. And you can see how adding the snow rock material to these rocks was pretty crucial to the scene. And in order to create distance and depth, we're going to add some trees on these rocks here. So let's zoom into our rocks. And then let's select a tree and we'll continue to use the fir tree and click OK. And we want to make sure our fir tree gets put down onto our rocks. It needs to be a lot smaller. And position it on the rock. It's still too big, I think. If you hold down your Alt button and drag the tree over, it will create a second tree the same as the first. And so we're going to do that and position another tree over here. We're just going to make it a little bit bigger and rotate it around. Okay, so it'll look slightly different from the other tree. Let's do the same thing again and position some trees over here on this rock. And a second one on this rock. Rotate it around. And if you want, you can create unique trees, but the trick is to resize it and to rotate it, and it looks like a different tree anyway. So either way, there's more than one way to do it. Okay, here's our tree, and a little bit too big here. We're duplicating another tree. Just put that one on the side here. And let's preview it. And now that we've created these trees here, we've given the eye something to compare the distance to, so it makes these rocks look more like cliffs, and our small trees look less like grass and more like trees in the distance. Okay, let's go to our fir tree one, and let's just move it and adjust it a little bit. And it might seem like we're adjusting a lot, but paying attention to the details is what makes the difference between a mediocre scene and a great scene. Okay, let's preview this, and that makes this rock right here look a little bit nicer. Some ideas you could use this terrain for is possibly creating a castle or putting in a path up here, if you remember how to do that from the other tutorials, or putting characters. And we've created a scene that's very versatile, and it looks really good. A couple more things that you could do to this scene are, first, go to Atmosphere and edit Atmosphere. Actually, we're going to load an atmosphere. We've pre-created a mountain haze atmosphere as an example. And let's preview this. And what we did was we used the volumetric model and increased the fog and haze. And you can see how easy it is to change the entire scene just by applying an atmosphere. It changes the whole mood of the landscape. Now let's take a look at this atmosphere a little bit closer. Now let's go to Atmosphere and Atmosphere Editor, and notice that it's in the volumetric model. And let's just play with the settings and look at the thumbnail and see how these settings change our scene. So we're going to add a little bit more sunlight, maybe even brighter. Go to clouds, and we don't want any clouds. And so let's adjust the fog and haze. And this really depends on what you like. You can create a little bit less fog so that the mountains will show up better, or you can increase the density so that the mountains don't show quite so much, or you can cut off the fog so that you have more fog down towards the trees and you're covering the trees. Okay, and personally I like it about like this. You can also change the color in your editor and just slightly make it a little bit more brown and gray, and then it makes it look a little bit more dusty. Okay, and let's preview. And we're pretty much done, so let's do our final rendering. Let's actually change our quality to superior, and that will help our atmosphere render a lot nicer. Okay, and we're done, so let's render our final product. And here we have our final image. And we've created this by using interesting shapes in our mountains and ridges, and adding realistic color and textures and creating perspective. Feel free to modify this and add your own flavor, or simply use some of the techniques we've learned to create your own Yeti habitat. I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial by Geek at Play. I've certainly enjoyed sharing it with you, and I encourage you to come visit us on the web at www.geekatplay.com.